watch what you consume physically. Watch the energies you are around. People that are always negative, who are always bashing to what you're saying about, all of a sudden you get desensitized to atrocities. And I'm very big on curate the social and mainstream media that you ingest. That's the that actually really fucks you up.
Nkululeko on Cultr.
Very good episode you had with Vusi Thembekwayo. It trended. A lot of people watched it. Did you have a sense of where it was going to go when you were doing it?
Nkululeko, I'd like to thank you so much for inviting me on this platform. It really means a lot to me. I'm honored to be here. I'd just like to congratulate the channel for what it's achieved. I see you guys are balling out of control now with fancy signs at the back. What the f***, bro? No, I'm kidding. Hey, bro, thanks for... I don't think we've sat down in a while. It feels like it's been a while for me.
Yeah, maybe more.
You were on the Penuel show.
Yes.
We just haven't flighted to that episode.
Oh, we were on TV together as well.
Oh, snap. We were on TV together.
TV is weird because they then told us that the episode is going to air like a month later.
Yeah.
And then it was compressed to 10 minutes. I never saw it.
I never saw it as well.
A few people saw it and then they texted me to say, oh, we saw you on TV. Okay, whatever.
And we can't direct them to YouTube. Hey, guys, go check out the video. It's gone.
Yeah, exactly. Like the moment is missed if you don't see it on ETV. It's done.
And people are watching Morning Live or listening to radio.
Yeah.
And they missed it.
Yeah. There's an existential threat for TV. They need to know how to make their episodes exist for longer than it will appear on television. And I think a few channels have done that. The news channels are doing really well on that. ENCA, SABC News, Newsroom Africa, they do really well with that because their stories are, I think the way that they cut them is that if you're doing a story on Ramaphosa electing a new electricity minister, for example, that story is like 5 minutes. Yeah. And you chop that 5 minutes. It's 5 minutes on TV. Yeah. They'll repeat it with different news anchors, of course, because it's still a fresh story. Sure. But the 5 minutes from whoever anchor, maybe the popular anchor, they will take it, put it on YouTube, and you'll see it there. And that's why you see now, I think SABC on YouTube maybe has over 1 million. ENCA, Eyewitness News, Newsroom Africa, they have millions of subscribers because every single day there's a news story that they take from TV, put it up on YouTube as well. So whoever gave them that idea is great. I think the ones that are not progressing as much as they should are the music channels, because sometimes an artist will tell you that I will be on MTV Base at this time, and they do the interview with Channel O, MTV Base, and so on and so forth. If you miss it at the time, you miss it. Yeah. I wonder why can't an MTV Base take that and then put it on YouTube without the music. Of course, the copyright stuff would be the music parts because they can't play any 5 seconds of music. But the interview with Questa, Casper, the Thaniswa Mazwai, for example, any musician that they have a conversation with, maybe take that, put it on YouTube. I don't know how you can do that with Uzalo. I don't know how you can do that with Generations, because the bread and butter, the money that they make is for you to sit in front of the television and watch it at 8 p.m. And they could then say, we have 7 million people who are watching Generations at 8 p.m. on SABC 1. And that's how they charge advertisers for it.
Teachable moment, I guess. Radio had a similar thing. I think for people that are watching, if you work in TV, SAPC, multi-choice, whatever, radio had the similar thing. If you missed it, it's gone. Yeah. And that's actually how podcasts were born. Because if a certain interview on radio was that important, they would capture it and then put it online so that people could listen to it. That's how podcasts, and again, we're going to carry on teaching. Podcasts are actually audio for people that don't know. Once you add video, it's something else. It's either a visual interview.
Where did you get the name podcast?
I got it from the internet, like everything else we get these days. So it's a video podcast. It's a audio with visual, which is what I think about KFM are doing very well.
Oh yeah. Sorry not to mention them. Yeah. They do a great job. So from their interviews.
From a TV perspective, I think you guys are sleeping on it. It doesn't have to be the entire Generations Uzalo episode, but if the people that work in TV are awake, or if they can get social media kids that are cool, be like, this 5-minute clip is gonna go crazy. Be the ones to put it on TikTok first. Be the ones to put on Insta, Facebook Reels first. And then if there's copyrights or money to be shared, rather do that, because someone else is going to share it and be cool. So I think TV needs to, I don't know, it won't be called a vodcast unless it's an interview, but they need to be top of mind, like the news channels.
Yeah.
So
I think the
something
challenge,
has to give.
the challenge with the TV is ETV gives money to House of Zwide, for example, to produce
for
House
the production.
Of Zwide, so I don't know who then owns the actual thing, the actual footage itself. Does House of Zwide? I know that they do it on Facebook actually, like Skim Sam, they will show you like a 1 minute of that. I don't watch all of these shows.
Is that like to promo?
Yes, to promo, the next episode that they do that. They take 1 minute of it, put it on Facebook. Maybe the question would be that who does that? Is that SABC One or is that Skim Sam was supposed to be doing that? And when income is generated from it or revenue is generated from it, who makes that money?
One of the times I sat with Uzola 7 years ago.
Yeah.
He pulled out an empty CD. You remember we used to write discs?
Yes.
He pulled out an empty CD and he was like, this is the highest selling CD in the country.
Yep.
Because this you get to copy. And he was complaining. Same way musicians have always complained. Guys, stop pirating our stuff. We don't get to eat, whatever. And I remember walking in the streets of Joburg, and when you look down, at that time, I think Day Walker, Trevor Noah was big.
Oh, yeah.
And they were pirated
that was
DVDs
in the 2010s.
Yeah, and about Africa Magic and all those Nollywood movies were big. Oh, Mr. Ibu were huge. And I remember thinking in my head, why can't you own the legit stuff? So Trevor Noah has, at the time, Musica was still around.
Yeah.
Rest in peace.
Rest
in peace to Musica.
We're getting old.
Musica was still around. So he had DVDs there, and I was like, why can't Trevor also be the guy to bootleg his own and make sure that it's being sold in spaza shops, Pakistan, Somali? And I remember Ace Hood, I think Meek Mill, those guys became millionaires, I think, pushing mixtapes through stores and in the streets. And I'm only saying this because TV and radio are being threatened by the internet because they refuse to change. So they could come with, but the copyright, and then like, whatever your red tape is exactly what's going to kill you. So try and maneuver around it. Try and find a way around it. If it means you're bootlegging through Nkululeko on Cultr, do that. And we ask you can get a back door or whatever, because the tide is moving. So, and if you're not going to move with it, you're going to be left behind, and it's going to be a sad story. And we'll be saying rest in peace, SABC, E-News or ETV, because they refuse to change.
They wouldn't rest in peace, but I get your point.
Don't say that. Don't say that. I'm sure Nokia and about BlackBerry were like this. This arrogance is what collapses.
Just think about this. Like, they have, SABC has 18 radio stations, and they have 3 TV channels that are free to air. And I don't see how they could be out of business.
If the internet becomes free, someone always comes up with the solution. I remember the Facebook guys, or Mark Zuckerberg, I think Amazon, Jeff Bezos, I think Elon Musk, they've been looking into technologies with these flying drone airplane things for free internet. I know a couple of people who are trying to get free internet in Makasi. And all I'm saying is, when you're that arrogant, no one will. There are kono swine la ngaphandle who wait for that challenge. No one will ever drop me. Like, challenge accepted. All I'm saying is, the kids in there, if they want to protect their jobs, which are going to die at some point, they need to innovate. Otherwise, they're going to get left behind. And if radio went into podcasts, and radio today has visual because they saw, and TV needs to move. That's all I'm suggesting.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we'll see. We can arm wrestle. But kids are watching us, and we're becoming the new guys. And because we get becoming the new guys, the Sol Pendukas of this world get given jobs on Kaya.
Yeah.
The TikTok stars of this world are going to be presenting shows on SABC. And it's going to be SABC multi-choice trying to leverage social media. But people will keep going to social media because they refuse to change.
Yeah, they're already doing that.
Sorry, you asked me a question. I didn't answer you.
Oh, yeah. So that episode with...
Before we speak about the episode, how are you doing, bro?
I'm good, man. Yeah. I'm doing Itiski TV every week.
Yeah.
That's my bread and butter. And then every now and then I shoot content here.
Are you happy at Itiski TV? Does it feel like work?
Not really, because I'm part of the owners. So I'm one of the owners there. So The only thing, like, there's nothing you can do about football. Like, it's boring. One team is going to win for the next 10 years.
You've been complaining about this for the past year or two.
Because Sundowns are going to win the league. They've won the league 6 times in a row. They're going to win it next year and the year after that, and so on and so forth.
Do you find the fans are complaining about the same thing?
Not necessarily, because I think football fans are unique in that they live their lives. Some of them are alcoholics, some of them are fathers, some of them are principals of schools and all of that. And every now and then, they will feign an interest in football. So maybe there's a big game. They act like they've been interested. Tina, we are logged in every single week for like 9 months of a year.
Okay.
And we are the opinion makers, basically. We are the opinion makers in South African football. We decide where a conversation is going to go in terms of direction and all of that stuff. So when you're logged in every single week, you can see the erosion in the quality of the football. Yeah. But if you watch it every now and then, you're like, even if you can be a 35-year-old or 30-year-old Marvel DC fan, I think it's abnormal for you to know every edition of something that they put out every year. So maybe
if you have a normal life,
yes, absolutely, absolutely. When you have kids and all of that,
sure,
So yeah, I'm happy with the monotony of the routine, because I knew, like, I got to Joburg 3 years ago, and I knew that every single week I'm gonna, if I want to do the things that I want to do and dominate in the things I want to do, I'm gonna have to have robotic monotony for at least 10 years before I say
10,000 hours.
I'm a comfortable millionaire in the things that I'm doing, for example. So with Itiski, that's literally churning out 4 million views per month, which is equals to X amount of money per month for all of us, Itiski Media, all of us, our employees, plus us as the owners as well. You extrapolate that over 5 years, you need to do that, and you need to be as disciplined as that. Then you have your house paid up. Then you have your everything else that you want to do.
So you're enjoying the monotony.
You don't have to enjoy or not enjoy it. You have to be disciplined enough to understand that that's what you need to do.
Do you enjoy it?
You don't have to enjoy or not enjoy it. I don't not enjoy it.
You're indifferent.
Yeah.
The solution to the Sundowns winning over and over, in your opinion?
There's nothing any team can do for now, because they have more money than God, and they've actually the trick is that with their money, because they've always had money since Motsepe bought into it in 2003, so over 20 years ago now. It was always going to be a matter of time before he started investing in the right people who recruit the right players. Yeah. And once it all comes together, because you cannot compete with them at the level of finance, it was always going to be something like this. So, for example, with players, generally speaking, they cost you 2 million or 1 million. South African players ain't like they're very poor. They're very, 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 very poor, right? But
that's a lot of varies.
Yeah, they're very poor, unfortunately. And now Motsepe throws a grenade into the situation by you negotiating for what is normally 2 million for a player, and he can offer 15. And you want to compete against him on the field of play, but you know that it's unsustainable to compete against him there at that negotiation table. They have one player, Marcelo Allende, he's a South American, that they bought apparently for 50 million. There's nothing wrong with that, but no one else can afford to do that except for them. Every now and then Chiefs could, but that's their wage bill and transportation and accommodation bill for the next 6 months on one player of everyone.
I've got 3 quick stories.
Sure.
The first one being, I'm a huge rugby fanatic.
Me too.
What New Zealand did very well, and I think Rassie Erasmus, when he came in as director of rugby, tried to do the same in South Africa. In New Zealand, they ensure that their talent is spread around the unions. Yeah. That's why all their teams at Super Rugby or whatever it's called these days are strong. They're all strong and competitive. They do it intentionally because they want New Zealand rugby to be strong, so the All Blacks could be strong. My suggestion, if he's ever interested, especially because now he's the chairman of CAF, Patrice trying to own, which I don't know what Irvin Khoza and them, how they'd feel about this, but for the betterment of South African football, spread out the resources so that Sundowns, Pirates, Chiefs, Amazulu, and all these other guys are strong. Do it for the betterment of South African football so it can be strong, so that international people want to watch the games here, and you know it's not going to be one team versus having one huge team. And it's great and it's amazing and you've got trophies, but if you're someone like Patrice, like I say, because he cares about African football, you can do more. Just as a suggestion, Dr. Patrice Motsepe. The second thing I want to say, is that the first? The second maybe thing I want to say is, I wonder if these guys, Patrice being one of them, guys like Roman Abramovich, I don't know if he still owns Chelsea.
They forced him out because of what Russia did to Ukraine. Yeah,
Okay.
they forced him to sell to Todd Bowley. He's an American owner.
The Middle East, the Arabs, I think, owned
Man City.
The Emirates guys.
Yeah, and the Saudis bought Newcastle.
Okay, so I sometimes wonder if it's just passion, which could happen. Now I'm rich. It's the one place I can invest in because soccer builds young boys into young men. It's good for exercise. You get to network with many people. You get to travel. I know Johan Rupert has spent a lot of money and he calls it a passion project. So they're not meant to make money. He, I think, invested in the Blue Bulls at some point. I don't know if he still owns a stake. I think Patrice owns a stake as well in the Blue Bulls.
Yeah.
People don't know. European team, the Saracens, and I think he may have owned a stake, I'm not sure,
I think
of Western Province and the
he
Stormers.
bought Stellenbosch FC as well.
Sure, and the football club as well. Johan Rupert has also invested in Ebola. I sometimes wonder if these guys are trying to avoid tax, number one, or if there's Adam Shiga there that we won't know, and you'll only know once you become a billionaire. Would say, hey, get a football team. And you're like, why? I don't like football. They're like, hey, get a football team. Get a foundation. The Nkululeko, Nkewu foundation for you.
Everyone
like, no,
is
fuck
obsessed
charity.
with foundations.
And they're like, we don't care about charity as well.
Yeah.
Get a foundation. It's good for PR. It's good for tax avoidance. It's good for networking. It's good for getting fundraising. One of the things people don't know, and this is not about the Motsepe Foundation, but foundations like it, like the Nelson Mandela Children's Fund. That's not Imalia Mandela. And FIFA and the biggest NPOs, the gift of the givers, that is not their money. That is donor money. So it could come from companies owned by the owners. It could come from normal people. So KFC's 2 rand. KFC is feeding kids. No, you're feeding kids through KFC. So Motsepe donates 30 million. You're like, is it from his pocket?
Yeah.
Or is it part of the money donated by people? So I sometimes wonder if there are sinister reasons around those type of things from my side. I had a third story. I've forgotten it now. No, the
cool.
third story, I think it had to do with Elon Musk, but I forgot it now.
You don't have to go there. I was asking you about your conversation with Vusi.
Yeah. Anyways, I was making sure you could. Diski TV spreading out the.
If I was falling apart,
love.
do you think I would say that on an episode?
I think you'd say I'm not really enjoying it much. I think you'd say it's work now. You'd give clues. You'd give enough clues to be like, I'm doing it in J. It's work. You'd say, look, it's work. We do it, trying to make money. It's okay. You'd give enough clues, which you sort of have a bit. And that would be good enough.
Okay.
You know.
I'm
trying to remember my third story. I think it was dope.
That's the first thing I asked you.
Tax evasion.
The first thing I asked you was Penuel show.
It's gone.
And you've been avoiding that. What's wrong?
No, I haven't been avoiding it, man. I just wanted to catch up. And, you know, when you and I sit, obviously, both of us have like a lateral view on things. So we always want to chat.
Always think about the audience as well, sometimes.
Who, you?
No, I'm saying you must consider that the audience
sure
may not be interested in that.
I've been enjoying my newfound fame. It took me, I think about 2-3 months back, I finally embraced that I think I'm a mini celebrity. I was struggling with that. You and I think, have slight social anxiety, which is similar. Maybe yours is worse than mine. Because I kind of pretend in front of people.
But like, when you actually like embrace that?
Hey, what's up? How you doing? And they're like, Nkululeko sits and he giggles and he's like,
yo, what's happening? And if I can avoid not going into a door where there's new people, I'm like, something happened, something came up, I'm not gonna go in there.
Yeah. Geez, I want to send a shout out to Sandile Zungu while we're here. I spoke about Amazulu.
Amazulu owner.
Sandile is one of the businessmen I've been trying to meet for so long in South Africa because he's got an amazing story that people in business assume everyone knows, but people don't know. And I'm hoping, with Sandile, if he allows me, I'm hoping we can film a sit down so that he can tell his story to people, which would be pretty dope. Mm-hmm. So I believe I'm a mini celebrity now. I'm so happy to be meeting people, and I'm meeting them not because I'm a character on some show, and they're like, why you shy uban ban? And I'm like, it's a show. I'm not a musician.
Yeah.
I'm myself and I chat and people like what I have to say and I meet people like say Black Pen, God, Nkululeko. I'm like, hey Tada. I ride taxis, I'm in cars, I'm in planes, yeah man, it's dope. And the journey in the last year has been amazing, you know. Shout out to DJ Spoo for elevating my platform. Shout out to Mac G and Podcast and Chill for elevating my platform. Shout out to all the guests I've sat with. Yeah. Shout out to you. I think I do try to shout out you a lot.
Thank you.
You guys have elevated me because people don't know that it's brand leverage. It's the reason why Triple put their sneakers on a certain soccer team. It's the reason why Ipat will align with the Somizi. It's brand leverage and it works. So thanks to you guys. And I believe currently, even while it's still running, and at the time of filming this, it's 3 days old, it's broken my records for the most watched conversation I've had with someone, one-on-one. Shout out to Vusi Thembekwayo, man. He's not a controversial figure, but I know he's a misunderstood figure. But shout out to him for coming through. It was a while. And I think I told him enough on the platform that busy, but it's like diverish. You know, he's got meetings and stuff, and it took 3 days to get him to sit down. But I guess it was worth it from a views perspective.
As a reward for it.
And from a content perspective, which is what I care about. You and I track numbers, track views. We need the money to work. But I'd like to think one of the reasons I connect with you so much is because we're about the core of conversation and extracting real value where even if we do 1 million views, we're like, was it a transformative engagement?
Yeah.
And that's more powerful than anything. And it looks like it's done that. And yeah, that was dope. Getting with Vusi there was dope. He came in his black Aston Martin and he's like, oh, this is my driving around car to get... So I'll always tease him about his accent. And I think I told him on camera, so now I have license.
Can I say something very quickly? So I've never seen Vusi Thembekwayo ever. I am a fan of the Penuel show.
Why have you never seen him?
Maybe I saw 5 seconds of him maybe 7 or 8 years ago.
Yeah.
And that was it. Like I was like, okay, cool. This is the brand of thing that he's trying to do and it's not for me.
Okay.
And that's okay as well.
I hear you. No. I 100% agree with you.
You know, and so some of the things that I will ask you about that episode, I should have gone to watch it first. But how did you find him? Like spending time with him, speaking face to face. How was he as a person? How was he in terms of approaching even some of the questions?
Yeah. So Vusi is part of our tribe in the sense that he's those people that binge watch YouTube. He's those people that bench read content. He stays on top of knowledge, information, people. And luckily for me, he's watched a lot of my stuff. And he kind of has an idea about me. We also happen to have certain mutual friends, which helps. So if he was trying to avoid me, people are like, hey, you know Pen? It's like, who the f*** is that? So luckily we have mutual friends. But I appreciate that he knows of me and he knows my stuff. So when we sat down, there was mutual respect, which I appreciate. He didn't need to because we were there for him.
Yeah.
But he gave me kudos. I know he's sat with Sadhguru, who's someone I truly admire.
Nice one.
I know he's sat with Tom Bellew. I think that's how you pronounce his name. Impact Theory.
Yeah, I think I've seen
on
Tom.
YouTube.
Yeah.
He's sat with Tom. The guy's traveled the world. The guy's met a lot of influential people. He's spoken on huge platforms in his own right. Because I know Black South Africans almost always want to own you once you start getting to a certain level.
Mm-hmm.
They want you to be them. Well, why? Don't sell out. Why are you manje ukhuluma kanjena? Why are you gqoka kanjena? And a lot of people hustle their own way. And I found myself guilty of that. To Samthanda Kolisi, the Springbok captain, where Sia's just a kid from Ezwide, bro. You know, at Gqeberha. And he loved rugby. And he happened to be built like a fucking machine. And talent scouts at Grey PE, Grey High School in Port Elizabeth, which is an amazing school. And some of the coolest gents I've met are from there. They identified him as a talent. They recruited him into their school. He struggled with English when he got there.
Yeah.
Made mates with some white boy who
I have
taught
his
him English.
autobiography somewhere here.
That's dope.
That's dope. I read it.
So Sia became a phenomenal rugby player. And I also want to add why I admire him more now.
Sure.
But later on, when he became really good and a Springbok, and he was interviewed in Japan, and they asked him about quotas, having a certain number of black players needed in a team.
Mm-hmm.
And he said he doesn't support quotas. And he said he doesn't think Nelson Mandela would support quotas. People want to be there. And I was like, we don't need you to say that. Because the reality is, if you don't force Ongamla to adhere to BEE and quotas, the black boy who deserves to be there will never make it. Yeah. So we need the quotas to get them to pick the guys on merit. And I got angry that he wasn't speaking out about racism in rugby. And he wasn't speaking out about other things. And then I spoke to, shout out to Kobani Bobo, who's an ex-Springbok as well. Yeah,
as a rugby pundit.
I think he went to Dale and then he went to Ronda Bosch. Amazing human being, Koban. Very dynamically talented person, just in general. And he explained to me something about protecting the team, because we see as part of a team. He's not here with us as the spectators. Yeah. And we as people who are more understanding of rugby and the dynamics know that if we taint him, it's going to kill his synergy with the guys.
Yeah, he's standing with the team.
Yeah, which happened with Luke Watson.
Yes.
Huge activist from an activist Watson family in
the
PE
minute
as well.
The minute your teammates hear you say some wild, although it might be true, they will not play with you.
100%. And it could be because they're racist. It could be because they just like, bro, I just came to play rugby. Why now are you saying white people? I'm white. I don't understand, bro. And at that moment, I was like, Siya Kolisi never said, guys, I'd like to be a politician. I'd like to be a representative for black people. I'd like to carry on with the work of Steve Biko. Never. All he ever did was, if there's a rugby game, can I please play? And he happened to become a leader. In this country, rugby is a very politically charged sport. Yeah. Mandela understood that. Steve Tshwete understood that. Shout out to Maihlome, his son, who's been on the Penuel show.
You've done an interview with him.
Yeah. So I had to respect that. And I can only imagine, Siya, this is now why I respect him even more. Well, Siya, Black Coffee, maybe a Trevor Noah, arguably. You actually have to start working hard to not lose yourself once you become big. Because it's so easy to be influenced by your billionaire friends, by the fact that you live in a mansion, that you have a Lamborghini, by the fact that every other girl wants to have your babies, by the fact that your own family now is treating you like an object and not a human. Yeah. Your grandmother now she changes her tone. And you're like, Koko, it's me. It's the same, you have to work hard to preserve yourself. And I think Ukolis has done that flawlessly. As big as he is, Springbok captain, World Cup winning, he's met the biggest sports stars in the world, the biggest billionaires. He's there with his family, still goofy, still happy-go-lucky, humble. Sometimes, he's still, when you speak to his mates close to him, like, I see him, man. Oh, Joey, and you're like, he's still Lucia. And I love that. And now that I'm a mini celebrity and I'm feeling at least I've been training. I think you've been training on your mind for a while. But I understand how easily it is to break someone's mind. And then people start doing drugs, thinking they're super celebrities, collapsing, having to go to rehab because the noise is too much. And the guy's just like, hey, bro, I'm still me. Put me on a field, put me in the gym. I'll tackle, I'll score a try. I'll step Elton Yankees, which happened, I think, at Ellis Park. But from there, I appreciate that. And I don't even know what my point was.
How do you tie
I remember
this
my
in
point.
with
Sorry.
Vusi Thembekwayo?
So my point was this.
You were talking about people and wanting to own you.
Yeah. People want you to be a representative of everything black. And they were not there when you started. Mm. They were not there when you started your YouTube channel. Yeah. When you were traveling from Cape Town to Joburg. When you were sitting in meetings with your business partners and other people. Some of them who are white people. Yeah. And they were saying, bro, I believe in you. Now you're a multimillionaire. Now you have a platform. Now all of a sudden you must be a representative for black people and say all the white, Indian, colored people that were there when I was a nobody. When we were all nobodies. So Vusi's been working on his craft. He chose, all of us, this is something we can debate. All of us choose a way of speaking. Whether you picked it up at school, maybe you went to a certain school, it was a boys' school, hey bro, how are you doing now? Yeah. You know, when I was with the Oaks at Saks, what we used to do back at school, you pick up a voice. Some guys, when they get into politics all of a sudden their voice changes and they start speaking like a cadre and a comrade, so that they sound appealing in the structures that they are in.
That's a good
so
point.
you pick.
That's a good point.
And he picked that to become an international global speaker. And he's become super successful. And now all of a sudden, someone who's never paid money to go watch him, someone who's never bought his book, someone who's never spent anything in his direction, wants to feel entitled to him and want to dictate to him how to move. I understand that. But at the same time, I understand what Vusi understands, that there's another little Vusi Ewadville. There's another Penuel Ematadin. And they kind of need us in the way we're living our lives to also consider them and also at some point have some responsibility of, okay, not for all South Africans that watch you at Jola 99 and on toxic black Twitter and other garbage. For some of you guys who are progressive, who are hungry, we'll have some responsibility and consider you and work and apologize even if we don't want to and say, okay, sure, let's do this. And I think he's doing that very well. And that's why even in the chat, I try to bring him back because he's kind of moving to Dubai in his operations. But I'm telling him, don't let, and it happens a lot, talented people leave social media. Talented people no longer do interviews. Talented people, you can no longer find them because a few rotten apples made them feel a type of way. Wow, Collis has got a white wife. You're sell out. And all of a sudden, Collis is like, why should I ever go back to the Eastern Cape? Maybe Xhosa people hate me. Maybe black people hate. It's like, no, dog. There are so many good people who support you, understand. So for them, please ignore the noise and please come back and reinvest in Wattville, in Benoni, in Joburg, in South Africa. I enjoyed the chat, bro.
I know you pay attention to the reaction of the people based on a conversation, and you engage as well. So is what you're explaining coming from what you observe people saying about him?
Yeah. It's me. It's you. It's a person like DJ Sbu. To this day, catches a lot of heat for certain things he may or may not have done. He's spoken about it on platforms, but the gallery doesn't care because it's nice to throw stones when everyone is beating up someone and we all have a fat laugh and we forget all the good that someone does. There are women every month, young girls, teen moms, every month who are collecting a grant to feed their kids because of tax that people like Vusi, Sbu, you, I pay. There are people that are working somewhere. There are people that have jobs who have opportunities because of some of the work we're doing.
Isn't it valid for people to look at someone and say, this sounds like...
No, 100%. People should always be allowed their opinions. And that's where I think this becomes part of my niche area, where I come in and I try to explain. Not to defend, by all means. If someone is saying, Zahara, as an example, I was never there. I wasn't part of TS Records. I don't know Sbu's life like that. I don't know Zahara. I don't know her life like that. Today I'm defending Sbu because we worked. I don't know what the happened. But I spent enough time with him. I understand business. I understand the music business to be able to make a video and be like, guys, look, let's consider these perspectives. Sbu could have, this is the narrative, Sbu could have chowed Zahara's money to TK. That one is known. It could be what Sbu said, look, Zahara actually owes us money. But we're like, you know what, it's fine. Let's interrogate that. Do you know how to run a business? Do you know how to run the music business? Do you know all the components and what money is due to who? Do you understand contracts? Do you understand this and that? Do people know that when they are paying members on Nkululeko and Cultr that YouTube takes 30%? Do people know that the advertisers that come on there, we might come here bashing certain brands, but then those same brands are advertising in this slot? Do people know that we are enriching Americans by being on YouTube and not I'm here to try and explain that, not to tell people shut up. What if it's just to get people to have a broader way of thinking and to be more intelligent, so that when we say this is bullshit, you can kind of articulate, well, what you said. I watched, let's use Vusi as an example. Vusi is formal, speaks well, teaches sales, does a bit of motivation, transformation in the workplace, etc. And you're like, look, I'm not about that. The next kid is like, dog, Sizwe, what's happening, skr. And you're like, oh, no, that's not for me.
Yeah.
Then the next person is, no, as a Pan-Africanist, the great empire of Kemet and the spirituality. You're like, hey, this is not... You're allowed to have your own opinion.
Sure.
But I come into that space where when you say, Izangoma, I'll be like, why? And then you're like, no, because Western medicine is tested. And statistically, I'm like, okay, let me try and explain why you think Western ways are better than African ways and where there's a misunderstanding. And that's all it is for me, is to try and explain so that people can be like, okay, I still think it's but I can understand why his market likes him as Bushiri. I can understand why people donate to that thing. I can understand why Penuel is a paying member of AfriForum, which is currently working within Ngonyama Trust, trying to help the Zulu Kingdom kind of like, hey, why Isantako bought a stake into the Jewish-owned SA Taxi? The taxis you're in are enriching certain people. The Indians you're buying from, you're working for this company, but we take hits. And let me paint you a picture. That's all.
Yeah. Can I take it back to the episode again?
Yeah.
Maybe one last question would be, I saw an article and I read it. It was about Vusi and Sizwe.
Yeah.
What exactly was said there in that episode about that situation?
I don't have regrets. I have pain in the caliber of minds of South Africans. We have allowed ourselves to have a very, very low vibrating frequency. We've allowed ourselves to really play in the mud with each other for laughs, to jab, to destroy because it's entertaining. It makes me sad because I know part of my responsibility is to try and push South Africans to a higher frame of thought. Some of my best, and the reason I raised this with Vusi, because people are like, you knew what you were doing. And I'm like, that's stupid. Some of my most watched videos on my YouTube channel, Penuel the Black Pen, are me trying to dissect the beef between Vusi and Sizwe. And what I explained to Vusi, as I've explained in the videos, is to me as an outsider, it looks like Vusi is self-made, first generation. Sizwe is second, third generation, who comes from a family who's done things and he's keeping the torch burning and maybe even doing better by his family. And for me, it was almost like this beef of we're the same age, but your dad was Jacob Zuma or Cyril Ramaphosa. I'm self-made. And you're bashing me because you're like, yeah, but you're self-made because you are taking people's money, as an example. And if I were to argue with you over something like that, I'd be like, do you know your grandfather was doing what I'm doing now? That's why you're hating on me. It's easy for you to talk now because of this. My son is going to be like, yeah, but we have ethical business. And you're like, you have ethical business because your dad was a criminal. So it's those type of dynamics. And you want to try and explain. And what I was saying to Vusi is, I admire him and I see his impact and influence. I admire Sizwe and I see his impact and influence. I've judged them, by the way, both of them. There have been times when I'm like, these arrogant, sick. Sizwe qala itshela, wathi uvusi ngapho icoconut. I've been part of, but I've tried to understand, and I think I understand now. So now that I understand, I feel a responsibility to explain. Vusi came on. I was explaining the explanations on my channels, the views, and I was like, I really hope at some point you guys will be able to sit down and sort this thing out. And he was like, no, him. And I was like, on camera. Because I didn't want us to have a thing like that on camera. I was hoping that if he wasn't happy, he'd just be like, no, I don't want to speak about that. But he's not happy. And he's allowed to be. Some people are like, why didn't you edit that out?
No.
And I said, once I make those decisions.
Unless they request.
Once I make that decision, I become mainstream media.
Yeah.
I start dictating what makes it or doesn't make it. The guest has to say, my man, please don't add that. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Fit,
out of respect,
I'm not going to disrespect you and try and paint some narrative. No, we're keeping it. It's going to be juicy. Again, to the mindset of South Africans, 2-hour conversation, which I think is pretty dope.
Yeah.
And that's the first thing that they picked out.
Yeah.
That 5-10 minute segment. Pearl Thusi makes a video. So disappointing. Casper Nyovest, make sure that Vusi and Sizwe fight, boxing ring. I'm like, this is where we are as a nation.
Or did she do that?
So she could have been joking. Damn. Because we, in that time of Slick Talk and Casper, Pretty Ugly, and Nak Music, the Zulus are I'm shy, and they 2 Zulus. I think that was one of my jokes in my first video when it was about the taxi industry. And someone had tweeted at the time, this is not surprising. Obviously, two Zulu guys fighting over taxis. What's new? It was a joke. So Pearl Tusi could have been joking, but I know the mental state of South Africans and how they might ride that. Yeah, make it happen. Abasha nevel. Ubano sabuban and whatever. And I could jump in because I don't know, but I've spoken to Vusi, so I have a responsibility to try and say, no. I've spoken to Sizwe. I can come and be like, why are we not saying, I hope these guys build a business together and allow us to invest. I hope Vusi Thembekwayo with my growth fund invests in some of the ventures Sizwe is doing. I hope Sizwe invites Vusi to the Kaya Drive. I'm like, for me, that's what I want to see, because that's what I see when Batu, Trip, Trevor, Black Coffee, and some of these guys are collaborating. I'm like, we could be those guys. We could be the guys that, AKA featuring Burner Boy, the LES, Kuli Chan, and JR. We could be those guys. We don't have to be Nigerian music. South African music is dope. And you realize some of your fans don't know what that means. And that incites xenophobia. Yeah. Now all of a sudden, next day, are you Team Vusi? Are you Team Sizwe? Hey, you, Team Vusi. And you're like, we are in a unique time in the world where we could change the narrative. And I want to help change the narrative.
And there's nothing wrong with the two of them not getting along to the point where they avoid each other.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Without inciting the other, or without one slandering the other, or just saying some stupid shit about the other. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with it. That's also an option too.
You're allowed to say, you're allowed to have an opinion. I don't like this.
He doesn't like me, but there's nothing.
It is what it is.
We could be in the same venue together. He's there, I'm there, and that's it. Yeah. Nothing happens. And I think that's also an example that we should teach our people. Is that not all the time we should beef, and it must be confrontational, and people must die, and people must take sides as well.
People need to understand we're fighting so many forces, so many today. As an example, I know for a fact black men are under attack. That's why black women look down on black men. That's why black boys are considering becoming girls, because being a man is trash. You're not going to get funding. You're not going to get a job somewhere because you need to tick certain boxes. This is what's cool in the streets. This is what's what. So black men in particular are under attack. We've got a situation with big pharmaceuticals have been attacking us and attacking our immune systems and getting us addicted to certain medicines and drugs because they'll tell us things like, no, you're hyperactive. No, we need to calm you. You're like, no, I'm just energetic. Leave me alone. We're under attack there. We're under attack from propaganda, especially from the West, that is going to demonize almost everything African. No, your grandmother that was delivering babies doesn't have a qualification. Rather go to this midwife or this gynecologist. Why not? These herbs are wrong today. Tomorrow, those same people are going to come back and be like, oh, why don't you use organic herbal remedies? You're like, we have to pick between Russia and Ukraine. But realistically, as a nation, as a continent, who adds value to our lives? Yeah. We're being asked again, now you're picking Vusi or Sizwe, and you're like, who's adding value to your life? Yeah. We're poor. We're struggling. We're jobless. Our minds are f***ed. Our education system is f***ed. We're obese. We're out of shape. We're all these things. Yeah. And now we're going to focus on garbage because that's what's trending on Twitter. Because, oh, Yajola 99, Wanbani said, hey, Umusa Kaula said. And that's their platforms. Podcast and chill. Yeah, did you hear what they said? We laugh. You need comedic relief in a crazy world. Otherwise, you lose your mind. But after we laugh, let's then, funny. Actually, guys, after the laughter, let's work. You know, Bashayan, okay, Yazin. Abashane business in Asbonu Tubani that can create more jobs. Yeah. Vusi Sizwe, let's see who can create more jobs. Not who can punch the other one. Let's see who of you can do more charity work for the people. Like, can we move to a higher level of thinking is what I want. It makes me boring. It makes, this guy, but I don't want to be part of this dumb mob that is leading to the deterioration, especially of black Africans, when I actually have a voice that can change that.
It's a good point. And I've been thinking about this recently, a lot actually. And I was listening to a bunch of guys that I really admire talking about this, that just because watching crime and investigation is entertaining to you does not mean that those people did not die. So when you watch crime and investigation, you watch the first 48 hours. Someone has been murdered. How do the police solve that crime? within the first 48. Not necessarily solve it, but what happens in the first 48 hours, because they say that that's a crucial period for you to get all the clues together in order to apprehend someone.
Sure.
Right? Just because that's entertaining doesn't mean that someone did not die.
Yeah.
You know, just because there's a voiceover to say that Penuel was a family-loving man, blah, 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 blah. They describe you dead. And there's like maybe 20 years of content worth of that. And people enjoy it, but you could miss the idea that someone died. They're like, it's enjoyable for you. And it got me thinking about what we consume, and maybe even what does it do to the people who are the subject of that, or the main protagonist of these things that we consume. For example, what does Uyajola 99 do to Jub's idea of morality in relationships? How many episodes does he have to shoot before he stops believing in the idea that, you know, people can be faithful? I don't believe in people being faithful, for example. But generally speaking, people think that, believe in monogamy, for example, generally speaking. But how many episodes can he do that? I know that there's exaggeration there. And I know that because reality is maybe 30% only reality, there's a lot of exaggeration there. But when you do a show like that, or when you work at the mortuary and you stitch up dead bodies, how many dead bodies do you need to stitch up before you lose your sense of, or the idea of humanity? What does it do to you as well? So for me, I'm always very careful with content. Yes, we need excitement. I love comedy, for example. We need excitement, but to the consumers and the protagonists or the role players or the perpetrators in the stories that we watch on Twitter, where as consumers, we are entertained by the spectacle of bullshit that's happening. Musa Kaula, bad-mouthing children.
Yeah.
Bad-mouthing children.
Yeah.
What does it do to you? How many times must you watch that long enough for you to think that bad-mouthing children is okay?
Yeah. I think one of the things I like about you, and one of the ways you and I are similar, is that we kind of move with energy. And in some of the conversations and interviews we've done with people, you feel people's energy, the people that you sit with.
Yeah.
And you decide if you want to work with that type of energy moving forward. Number two, comments, which I don't know if you still don't read comments. So some of the comments you start realizing, you know, I've started, Elon Musk, shout out to the boy, returned me on Twitter. So I'm back on Twitter. I know we did an episode where I was permanently deleted.
Oh, so you're back.
I'm back on Twitter, I think, for the last 2-3 months.
Yeah.
Shout out to Intwana Sepitoli. You look at Twitter and I've started blocking a lot of people. Not because, and some people are like, come on, dog, just don't take people seriously.
No, man.
You and I move with energy, and one of the things you and I also understand because of the studies we've done, psychological studies, it's not just the food you eat. The food you eat, the food you're around, it may not be eating it, it could be smelling it. If you're in a place where you're always smelling this, it could be doing something to you.
Yeah.
So watch what you consume physically. Watch the energies you are around. People that are always negative, who are always bashing to what you're saying about, all of a sudden you get desensitized to atrocities. And I'm very big on curate the social and mainstream media that you ingest. That's the that actually really fucks you up. You know, you're saying now you don't believe people are faithful as a concept.
Yeah.
If we now snapshot into members of the Islamic community in South Africa, and you're like, but we all know people cheat, they would all look at you like, what do you mean? Their moral compass, their community, their way of living. Cheating is an outlier. We're not even speaking about the Middle East, where if you cheat, you get stoned to death.
For sure.
To us, a faithful couple married for 10 years is an oddity. We're like, konte shaya manzla. Romeo Kumalo basetsana.
None of them is
Kabelo
outside.
And Gail. I saw Standiwe Msomi and Tony Khoroge. You're like, it can't. I'm sure this has been cheating. Barack and Michelle. I'm sure this nigga got. Because to what you're saying, our minds have been eroded so much. The movies we watch, the music we consume, the things we watch on social media, like there's no faithful dog. Babes, what do more? At the memorial service of Umampinch, I was saying, we normalize it. And each and every one of us has a responsibility to, even if you don't have a voice, you can choose what comes into you.
Yep.
So that your children, your friends, you're like, we work on a different. So it's I remember asking doctor friends, do you guys still feel when you see a human being, do you see a human? Or do you see someone cut up? Do you see like a lung and kidneys? The number of people you have to declare dead. Does death move you? Or are you just like, oh, okay. It's not too bad. It was a clean death. It was a what? It was a good death. I think and you're like, no ways. I don't understand what you're saying.
Technical perspective.
Yesterday I was in a taxi. One raz between Ipri and a plane.
Yeah.
As the taxi was taking off, it takes it to Cresta and Honeydew. Gunshots. People start running. They run, and then they start walking back. You know?
Damn.
And the people in the taxi are like, hey, driver, hamba. I don't think any of us are thinking someone might be dead. Someone is like, hey, yeah. And after that, you're back on your phone like, hey, oh, we're gone. We're gone. We don't care. Who died this week? Who died next week? Can't you somebody else? Hey, I'm shot. Can't you Ricky? Hey, Kazubanos. Costa teach. Hey, sad. Hey, anyway, success. Pusa happy Friday.
Mm-hmm.
We've become that. I think, personally, death is overrated. I think death is overrated in the sense that we are all going to die. It is a part of life. It is a part of life we all need to embrace. It's like children or not children. People will have sex. People will have children. People take a shit in the toilet. Can we speak about the things that we do because they're reality, and how do we mentally prep? What is shocking is how people die. Is it murder? Is it Russia, Ukraine, COVID, suicides, which are high, murder, road accidents? All of those things compare nothing to lifestyle deaths, something you can control. What are you eating? Just lose weight. You are killing yourself. Like, how do we die? And how can we die better? So that when you die, we celebrate you. Like, Nkululeko, bro. I'm sad that he's gone, but the content and the type of human he was and the people he impacted, so we can celebrate it. So I think death is overrated, but the how now is almost now. We don't care. We don't care, and we're losing our humanity. And look, we are animals, but I think even wild animals have got some level of dignity in how they do things. You know, we'll watch a video of a person being shot and laugh.
That's weird.
Could be movies.
We are becoming weird human beings.
Yeah.
The way that we circulate videos of dead bodies is strange, and the way that we talk about dead people is strange as well.
Yeah.
I completely agree with you in that we overrate death because it's an experience that we all shocked by, and it's gonna come to us, all of us, eventually. But we've always been a group of people, particularly Black people, that respect. I'm sure other cultures too respect how sacred death is, and But anyways, my original thing was really about what do you consume as a person. How many times can you consume garbage before you become garbage yourself?
And it's tough, bro. It's tough. I would suggest this to the people that are going to be watching. It's difficult. Draw a picture or write out a picture of the type of human being you would like to be. It's a very difficult exercise, by the way. It's not easy. I want to have a great body. I want to be in a good marriage, relationship. I want to have 5 amazing children. I want to live in a clean, decent neighborhood. I want leadership that actually cares about the people and that serve. Draw that picture, and once you've drawn it, begin searching for those spaces. And try and fight. I fight. Gossip is juicy, bro. Hey.
Well, I've never encouraged you. I've never encouraged you to gossip around me.
Yabona njoba sifike la.
Yeah.
Besilalela omunye usisi ojola with a foreign guy like South Africa, and lo sisi lo they've got a child with this gent. This gent bought her a car. He was paying for her house, and she got into an accident, a car accident. The guy paid off the car. The guy had said, "Don't drive the car." got back. Now she's fighting with the baby daddy, and now it's on radio, and it's the guy's like, yeah, but I told you not to take the car, and you see. So people are going to be like, ooh, Jolane, foreigner, vele, uzolaye. That stuff is juicy. When we laugh, Will Smith slapped Chris Rock. Aibo. Jada said, I know. Junk food is yummy.
Yeah.
Bambi, Katale KFC, biting into a juicy burger with the sauces and it's delicious. But the reality is every bite of extra cheese lasagna with saucy mince is clogging your heart.
There's consequences.
So I'm a work in progress. I walk every day. I do push-ups. Shout out to Cultr Lux. We have to bring up the push-up. We have to bring back the push-up challenge. I try to live a healthy life, a good life.
Yeah.
I've tried to create my social media. If people go onto my Twitter, look at who I follow. If you go onto my Instagram, look at who I follow. Look at my Facebook, who I follow. When I see certain content, these platforms allow you to click. There's normally like 3 dots or a dot that says, I don't like this content. Because you're working on, I want to re-engineer my mind to move to a new church. If you're saying, yo, I'm a Muslim, I need discipline. Yeah, move there. It's tough, but do it. Move into that neighborhood. If Ikasi is not doing the things for you, move into the neighborhood that's safe, where there's no potholes, where the leadership actually cares about what you have to say. It's not nice, but that's how we're going to be better. And pull out, like Moses, pull out as many people from the dark and into the light if we want a better life. But if we want this junk, because it makes a lot of people money, because it makes people sick, because funeral parlors make a lot of money, the pharmaceuticals make a lot of money, social media, stand-up comedy. There's these industries that live on dysfunction. TV, ARVs, reckless, whatever it is, there's industries around dysfunction. That's fine.
Yeah.
But for the rest of us who claim we want better, we have to begin making small changes, bro. At least I'm doing it for myself. But I'll keep visiting there because I'm trying to, Harriet Tubman, I'm trying to save more people who actually don't know that if they just change their diet, if they ate 1 less spoon, if they took a walk to the shop instead of a drive, they could live for an extra 5-10 years. They could be happier, not depressed. Their kids could
do you find, I saw on Penuel, the Black Pen, one of the videos you were saying that you're trying to pull back on political content, for example, and bashing the ANC and this and that. And I thought that's an interesting step because I cannot do anything without it consequencing me. For example, mina Nkululeko.
Yeah.
Everything I do, if I spread out negative to the world, eventually it's going to come back to me. That's what I've picked up over the last 10 years. I'm awake, I don't drink, I'm always sober.
Yeah. Shout out to Team No Alcohol, by the way, and Team No Smoke.
There's
a lot of us. We just don't speak out, but there's a lot of us.
Yeah, there's a team. we must be wearing blue, the team red, team blue.
Team No Booze, Baba.
Okay, so I've been aware, like every single time you do something, like eventually nothing is unconsequential. Eventually it's going to come back to you. Like, how did you arrive at the point where you like, because you also touched on that, you'll try avoid doing that on Twitter, you'll try avoid doing it on Pen or the Black Pen as well.
I'm curious about your decision to not cover politics as well, because all of this is consequential eventually. Whatever you put out to the world. The interesting thing for me, Penuel, is that I can see when you're sick. There are some things that happen to you where I can see that you're sick. Whether you have a cast, it means that your arm is fractured or broken.
Yeah.
But when you're going through depression, it's not always easy to see that. When you're dealing with the negative spill-offs from the things that you put out to the world, it's not always easy to pick that up. Yeah. But I think that content is consequential. Whatever you put out to the world, eventually, you may be suffering alone, in your own bedroom, the comfort of your own home, but you're still suffering as well. So how did you arrive at that point where you're like, let me take a step back from the political content? And what does that really mean? Does it mean you will never touch politics again, or you will try to do it on YouTube and not on Twitter?
So, chasing numbers and chasing cloud sends you down like a very deep dark hole where you start prostituting your mind and your voice for likes and reactions and for sound bites and to trend. You literally become a whore to people's dysfunction.
Yeah.
And like I said, you and I think, are smart enough to understand how the world works. I am not above being called out and calling myself out when I'm wrong. I have a God complex. I believe I should be called, and I believe I'm the smartest human being that's ever lived. And I believe I am the descendant of Da Vinci and Genghis Khan and Nikola Tesla and Jesus Christ and all these amazing people. I posted a tweet and I was saying, for people that don't know, Muslim women are not allowed at a burial. They're not allowed at a graveyard. So there was a curse by Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings upon him. But there was a curse, and it was just mostly because I think in African beliefs as well, at some point, women, especially pregnant women, weren't allowed around those places. So I posted a tweet saying, I think Muslim women should be allowed. Times have changed. And we need to relook some of these things. Some of the comments were like, but you're not Muslim. Some of the comments were, leave Islam alone. Have the women complained? Have they said anything? So I added something to the tweet. I was like, and then some people came at me sideways. I was like, the one thing I got from the comments was a lot of people respect or fear Islam. Part of it probably because of the propaganda from the West, bombed or whatever rubbish.
Yeah.
A part of it, the people that come at me sideways, I get to realize that these are the people I don't want on my page, so then I block. But it was also a good experiment in reminding me, until certain people ask you for certain things, maybe it is not your place. It can be, but it may not be. So that tweet, though I was just sharing my thoughts and my opinions, which I'd like to do at any given time, it is good for me to say, look, I personally don't think Muslim women should be not allowed at the graveyards. Some of them are probably more emotionally strong, better leaders. Some of them should be allowed to lead, which is now this thing of bringing women in, which the West has done, which may have destroyed certain. But Muslim women generally are okay. Their families are functional. The men lead, the women submit, and they add value, and they lead as well.
Yeah.
What's happened with politics with me is I'm always bashing the ANC. I'm always bashing Cyril Ramaphosa. I even came up with a nickname for him. I call him Umakhaleni.
Yeah,
some people find him derogatory, but it's like, it wasn't, Zuma was called butternut head. If someone's tall, we call him giraffe. If someone's a midget, we call him. If someone is, so Umakhaleni is because he's got a pronounced nose. It's unique, let's put it that way. But look, it is derogatory because for some people it's like, and I understand, but it's out of my frustration.
Yeah.
ANC voters are going to vote ANC next year again, mostly because they want social welfare, grants, RTPs, free healthcare, free schooling, and they believe that the ANC delivers that. Tenderpreneurs are going to carry on voting ANC because that's what feeds them. People that have government jobs, thanks to ANC referrals, are going to vote ANC. People that have lived through apartheid are not going to vote DA. People that think the EFF is destructive are not going to vote for the EFF. People that believe the IFP is tribalistic and a Zulu are not going to vote. People that are like Gaten McKenzie was in jail and he's colored and this is EPAs, they won't vote. People that look at Herman Mashab and say, but this guy was a DA guy and the action is just a rebirth of ETA, they're not. So a lot of ANC people are going to keep voting ANC, and if I want to potentially change their minds, if I'm going to do political content, so I'm not going to stop political content, but I want to reshape how I do it.
Yeah.
And focus on positivity and educate guys. Do you know social welfare is a government policy? It's not ANC, but yes, the ANC champions it. Now the responsibility is on DA, EFF, IFP, Patriotic Alliance, Action SA, whatever, to come and say, guys, we also support the same policy, or we will change it like this. The world is run by thugs, the biggest thugs, the biggest thugs. The people that run America, Europe, Asia, people that run this country, the continent, the politicians, big business, the people that run the armies, it's big thugs. Everyone under them is small thugs. The gang leaders and the drug guys and the taxi, small thugs. Tenderpreneurs are small thugs. Those guys are big thugs and they have a law. Their law is unto themselves that they can do no wrong, but everyone else gets put in jail. The world is not going to change from that. And if I'm going to keep trying to be obsessed with that frustration, I'm going to end up losing my mind. And I get angry. And I lose out on positive things. Gift of the Givers, AfriForum, the community in Orania, some of the people out there are focusing on positive acts. And I would like to focus on positive acts. I would like to explain what's happening in politics, and I would like to advise people to do things better. But the bashing and the swearing, I'm not going to stop, by the way, because it takes a while to change.
Yeah.
I'm not going to stop, and it's not for reactions. It's because I'm still angry and still hurt. It happens when you're in pain and you feel we deserve better. But I really want to try and focus on the good. I want to find ANC people doing good work and say, hey, shout out to those guys. EFF guys like Uflo Chibambu gave an amazing speech at the Sonnet debate. Shout out to those guys. And then the bad things, I'll be like, look, these are the bad things happening. I'm going to try my best to not be emotional about them. Guys, we've got load shedding, but there are people trying to do alternative. If we want to end load shedding, let's maybe do this. That's what I want to do, dog. That's all.
Load shedding is f***ing us up, so
you see now, this is where I get angry, but
there's nothing we can do about it.
Gets known.
The inverter is running, but it's gonna stop soon. Yo, this was dope, man. Even though it was just an hour, thank you so much for coming through.
Thanks a lot, Nkululeko. I appreciate you, bro. And shout out to your channel and the growth, and good luck to us in changing people's lives for better.
Thank you to everyone for watching.